it seems like Dillian Whyte has decided to continue his war of words with Deontay Wilder, which has been raging for several years now. In Dillian Whyte's latest verbal assault, he called Deontay Wilder an idiot for parting ways with his longtime co-trainer Mark Breland. So the body snatcher said, quote, "I think it's the worst mistake he's ever made because Mark Breland is the only person in his team that actually was a boxer and actually was a world champion. He was the only person that didn't care about money or fame. Someone who was actually from an emotional point, someone who understands thinking about his health and did the right thing by throwing the towel in because he could have got seriously hurt. He was getting hit with punches that weren't knocking him out, they were concussing him. Mark Breland knows what it's like because Mark Breland has been in the same position Wilder was in. He's someone that cares about the athlete and the boxing side of things. Not just bomb squad nonsense. He doesn't care about that. He's the only one in the team. You don't see him running around and shouting and screaming. He's just a little quiet guy, does his job. Deontay Wilder is an idiot. He clearly can't see it. Good luck to him. It's his team. He can do whatever he wants. But I think it's a bad mistake. Mark Breland is the only one that knows boxing in his team," end quote. Now, as you guys know, I fully agree with those sentiments from Dillian Whyte. And I think most of you guys do as well. But the issue that many of you are going to raise here is the fact that Dillian Whyte parted ways with his longtime trainer, Mark Tibbs. And shortly after that, he got knocked out by Alexander Povetkin. So I'm sure many of you are going to be saying Dillian Whyte needs to take his own advice. He needs to practice what he preaches. Why did he split with Mark Tibbs? That was a winning team, a winning formula. And many of you see it as poetic justice that Dillian Whyte ended up getting stopped by Povetkin after splitting with Mark Tibbs. I mean, none of us know what went on behind the scenes between the pair of them. But a lot of people are just assuming, based upon what they've seen publicly, that Dillian Whyte was in the wrong and that he shouldn't have split with Mark Tibbs in the way that he did. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is the view of a lot of people out there. Now, to be perfectly fair, Xavier Miller has been part of Team Whyte for a long time. So it's not like he brought somebody completely new in. He's working with someone that he is familiar with. And Dillian Whyte showed improvement in there, technical improvements. His jab was better than I've seen it before. He wasn't throwing wild shots, which we often do see in Dillian Whyte fights. He was a lot more calm and controlled. He was keeping his hands up nicely because Povetkin, especially early on, is fast with the hooks and what have you up top. Even at long range, he can duck low and then come up with hooks and uppercuts and what have you. So Dillian Whyte was good, at least long range, from a defensive and offensive perspective, and more neat and tidy than I've seen him before. The only issue from a technical point of view at long range that I saw with Dillian Whyte is that his footwork is still a little bit of a mess. He still has a lot of spillover from his days as a kickboxer. Yeah, a lot of kickboxing footwork going on there. And that is something I think Dave Coldwell also pointed out. I think he was shouting from the corner, like, sort your footwork out. If Dillian Whyte retains Dave Coldwell, then hopefully Dave can get him to work on that footwork. Because, footwork is important because of the positioning aspect. If your footwork is good, you can position your body in such a way that it's difficult for your opponent to land, or at least land cleanly. And also, you can move around the ring more efficiently and more quickly and stay on balance to land your own shots better if your footwork is on point. But other than the footwork, and I know that's no minor part of boxing, in terms of what Dillian Whyte was doing with his hands, and he was managing to maintain distance pretty well for most of the fight, it was good. And that was under Xavier Miller, so we've got to give him credit for that. Yeah? With that being said, when you change trainer, it's not just the technical things that are addressed or sometimes not addressed or may change. It's psychological. If you've been with a guy for a long time and you've had a lot of success with him, like Dillian Whyte did with Mark Tibbs, To part company with the guy midway through a training camp against one of the most dangerous opponents you faced, from a psychological point of view, you're not in that solid, tried and tested place. So did that have a bearing on the way the fight went? Probably not. But for those of you who are looking to criticize Dillian Whyte for, going in on Deontay Wilder after splitting with Mark Tibbs, you might use that and say, well, you know what? If Dillian Whyte hadn't, Deontay Wilder splitting with Mark Breland, you might say, well, Dillian Whyte would have beaten Povetkin if he hadn't split with Mark Tibbs. He should take his own advice. Whatever the case may be, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now, Xavier Miller is an inexperienced coach as a professional, okay, in terms of training professional fighters of Dillian Whyte's level. And the fact that he brought Dave Coldwell in was a little eyebrow raiser because it suggested, look, I'm not criticizing him for doing it. If he really needed another pair of eyes and he was unsure of whether he had, all the T's crossed and I's dotted, then he did the right thing by bringing Coldwell in. But doesn't it speak to his inexperience? And again, people are going to use that as an example of why Dillian Whyte shouldn't have split with Mark Tibbs. But to counter that, other people will say, well, Dillian Whyte was working with Xavier Miller when he was still with Mark Tibbs. So that was a two-trainer setup, kind of. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is Dillian Whyte being a hypocrite here? Should he heed his own advice? Should he get back with Mark Tibbs? Should he have retained him in some way? And how do you see the situation with him and Xavier Miller going forward? If Dillian Whyte loses the rematch, I still won't necessarily blame it on Xavier Miller, because Dillian Whyte, yes, he's got, technical issues there that he needs to address, but the mental issues, irrespective of what trainer you give Dillian Whyte at this point, the mental scars, the demons from that first fight, they're not going to go away. It's going to be down to Dillian himself to be able to deal with those demons. I don't really think that bringing in the greatest trainer in Britain or in the world would make it any easier for him to get over those mental obstacles. So, and I think those mental obstacles are going to play a big part in whether Dillian Whyte wins the rematch or not. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's happening. I'm out.